is not always used by a narcissist for huge major things in the relationship. It can also be tiny subtle things, and those tiny subtle things can make you feel the absolute craziest. So I want to give y'all an example of one of those tiny subtle things that happened when I was with the narcissist that I dealt with. So this story is going to kind of start off more obvious, and then it's going to get more subtle. So this one woman that I thought that he was cheating with for months, that he constantly denied and constantly made me feel crazy about, it turned out he was cheating with her. And I found out through text messages that I found. And in those text conversations, I noticed like certain words that she used a lot in their conversations. And two of those words, one of them was headspace and the other one was tenfold. At this point, I had probably been with him for close to 2 years, and I was very familiar with his normal vocabulary, the words that he used, the way that he spoke, etc. Neither of those words were in his vocabulary. He literally never used either one of them before. So fast forward, I find out he's cheating with her. I stay, unfortunately, and he stops talking to her, allegedly, for, some months. And it was one of those periods where everything seemed like it was good. He seemed to be changing and all that jazz. So a few months down the line, I can't remember how many, things start to feel weird again. He starts to be cold towards me again, withhold affection. You know how the cycle goes. And it just seemed like something was going on. And one day he used the word tenfold randomly, and it triggered the out of me, because I remembered specifically that was like one of her main words that she used that I saw in those text conversations. So I started freaking out, and I'm like, why'd you use the word tenfold? Like, where'd that come from? And he looks at me like I'm crazy, and he's like, what do you mean, where did the word tenfold come from? Like, I always use that word. What are you talking about? And I'm like, no, you never use that word. And in my head, I'm like, he's using that word, so I know he's talking to her again, because that came from her. I start acting super weird because my intuition is screaming at me exactly what I know is going on. And at the same time, he's telling me that I'm ridiculous for basically like micromanaging his vocabulary. And I just start to feel crazy as because I'm like, why am I like nitpicking at his vocabulary like this? Like, what? This doesn't mean anything, even though like I knew inside of me that it meant something. I end up believing him over myself again, and a few days later he uses the word headspace, which is another word that I know specifically came from her because she used it a lot in that text conversation. So again, I'm like, headspace, like, when'd you start using that word? He's like, here you go again with what words I'm using. What does it matter? Like, I always use the word headspace. Again, I feel crazy because I'm like, these are normal words. Why am I freaking out about this? Even though I knew what it meant. Turns out he was talking to her again, and I was right about the whole thing. But I just wanted to kind of point out that it's not always huge things. Sometimes it's those tiny, subtle things that they twist and make you feel absolutely crazy about.